And the House bill is advocating for revocation. In the history of our country, has there ever been any legislative franchise for radio TV that has been revoked? Would you have that historical record? Anyone, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, may I reply? Based on the records of the KPP since its inception in 1974 and the start of the issuance of legislative franchise, there is no incidence of Congress revoking a franchise. As correctly pointed out, Your Honor, the case of ABS-CBN been referred to none in 21.
Thank you for that. Mr. Chair, can I ask KBP, would you be aware of any, let's say, outside the Philippines, other countries? And what would be the standard? What would be sufficient justification? Are there any international good practices that we can share to guide members on whether to support or not this particular bill?
I may stand corrected on this, Your Honor, but the regulatory environment in different jurisdictions is different from the Philippines, where a legislative franchise is a condition for the issuance of a broadcast license. In fact, that was the situation in the Philippines pre-martial law, where the Broadcast Media Council were issuing broadcast licenses to operate radio and television stations. It was only post-martial law where the legislative franchise was required for a franchisee to be able to get a permit from the NTC. In the United States, the regime is different. The radio and television licenses are issued by the FCC, but there's no requirement for a legislative franchise. That is also, to my recall, Your Honors, that is also true in other countries in Asia, that a legislative franchise is not required.
Are there any countries, Mr. Chair, that's similar to the Philippines that requires a congressional franchise?
Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any.
Okay, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for your sharing that information. Would the NTC know, has there ever been a similar franchise that's been revoked?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To our knowledge as well, we are not aware of any franchise that has been revoked up to this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Last one, Mr. Chair. I wanted to give Attorney Tolentino an opportunity from one lawyer to another. We learned in law school that free speech is not really free. There's a limit to it. I'm sure Attorney Subico knows that. But the classic case, Mr. Chair, is you cannot shout in a crowded movie house, there's a fire, if there's no fire. Just like if I shouted right now, there's a bomb in the room, knowing that there's no bomb, that's not covered by free speech. So I'm curious, Mr. Chair, to give you an opportunity, whether it's your personal or company position, where do you draw the line?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to manifest a Supreme Court jurisprudence about legislative franchise and also in relation to a freedom of press and freedom of expression. This is not my personal opinion, but this is based on a Supreme Court jurisprudence approved by the Supreme Court last 2021. The Supreme Court said that a franchise constitutes a property right, which cannot be arbitrarily revoked or forfeited without compliance with the due process law. It means a franchise cannot be revoked or forfeited without undergoing procedure of due process, which must be observed, which necessitates notice and hearing conducted through a court trial. So not a legislative investigation because legislative investigation is only in aid of legislation. And second, Mr. Chair, it states that the determination of the right to exercise of a franchise, whether or not we enjoy the privilege to be forfeited, shall be subject to a co-warranto proceeding in a regular court, Mr. Chair. And this is a Supreme Court jurisprudence that we believe is a proper way, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah.
Attorney Mark.
I'm winding down, Mr. Chair. Thank you for sharing that. I'm happy to hear that because I think the House, this committee has had at least 3 or 4 hearings. So in terms of due process, and I don't think that that particular Supreme Court case is really on point because we do have the power to issue, a franchise, and at the same token, we have the power to revoke. So I don't agree with that case that it has to go through the courts, but I do agree that the concept or the principle of due process is always important, and I'm happy that this committee has heard these particular issues multiple times, which I think complies with anyone's requirement on due process. But my question was, because you continue to defend your talent despite hearing from the members, and you said earlier they have the right to file civil criminal cases. I asked about internal regulations on how you discipline talent employees. And I asked, so where do you draw the line? Obviously, Mr. Chair, if a talent says, let's burn down a Jewish temple, I don't think all of us will not be in agreement with that. That would cross the line. So how, as counsel for the company, what are your thoughts on that? I wanted to give you an opportunity because I have to be honest, Mr. Chair. I'm looking for defenses for you guys, but you didn't do a good job doing that. So I wanted to give you one opportunity, and that was my last question, Mr. Chair.
So when I say due process, Mr. Chair, it is one of the constitutional rights guaranteed under our Philippine Constitution. Yes, we agree with Congressman Daza that is not absolute. There are certain limitations. But granting that there is limitation, there is a latest jurisprudence of the Supreme Court that in case any rulings, decisions of any government agency that affects Constitution, the freedom of press and freedom of expression, there is a presumption that that government agency's ruling and decision is unconstitutional. It means the Supreme Court emphasized that the freedom of press and freedom of expression is one of the highest constitutional rights guaranteed under the Philippine Constitution. It means the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines guarantees more protection, more right with respect to the freedom of press and freedom of expression. Yes, sometimes there are irregularities, there are inaccuracy committed by the anchors of the SMNI. But granting those are inaccurate, granting that those are not 100% correct, still covered by the freedom of press and freedom of expression guaranteed by the Philippine Constitution. So therefore, Mr. Chair, in case there are violations by the anchors, there are other options like filing a case, but not to affect or to revoke the franchise, because a franchise granted by the Philippine government is already a proprietary right protected by the due process clause of the Philippine Constitution.
Thank you very much, Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Marcolino.
Thank you for the time given
Maraming
me.
salamat, the Honorable Daza.
And Mr. Chair, this is not my opinion, Mr. Chair.
Well,
I'm just reading the
yeah,
jurisprudence of the Philippine Supreme Court,
Well,
Mr.
I
Chair.
think that is your opinion based on what you are reading. If you only nitpick on certain, kasi first of all, we don't know what case are you
Can I read the decision, Mr. Chair?
You can just give us a copy because we will definitely, we cannot ask, I don't believe that the Supreme Court will go into
GR number
Excuse me,
1.
Attorney Tolentino, you are not yet
Sorry,
recognized.
Mr. Chair.
Again, please, makikiusap po ko.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, na sabi ko, just give us a copy and we will study the points that you have raised. But be rest assured that this is definitely within the right of the committee to grant, amend, repeal, and revoke. At least, klaro po tayo dyan. And if you think that we're in violation of that, then you also have the right to go to the court if you want to. Like you have been asking everyone to go to court against your station and to your talents.
Thank you,
And I
Dr.
like the smile of the attorney Rolex Suplico. It's a very nice smile. Okay, and he's, thank you. Anyway, klaro po tayo dyan. Sa inyo, kasi alam po nyo, magpapasaw tayo ng pira-pirasong desisyon, hindi ko natin ang konteksto ng inyong sinasabi. So, and I know that, the Supreme Court will not, malaki po ang pag-aalam po natin sa kanila at malaki naman po ang pag-aalam nila sa legislatura.
Thank you, Mr.
Hindi
Chair.
po sila sasaklaw sa kapangyarihan ng legislature. So maraming salamat. Donor, Attorney Carams, Congressman Carams, I'm sorry.
Anyway, that's the opinion position of attorney. But ito na attorney, Section 15 of your franchise. And binigay niya sa inyo yung frankisa at nobody question about it. During your Section 15. Oh, now you're telling us, is as if that you're telling us that we don't have the powers and authority to approve and revoke franchise. Huwag na natin pag-usapan yung powers, yung frankisa nyo mismo.
Can I make a manifestation, Mr. Chair?
Hindi.
This week, I think there's a,
Gusto mo basahin mo.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
15.
Okay.
Oh,
This-
para marinig nyo na.
This franchise shall be subject to amendment, alteration,
Oh.
repeal by the Congress of the Philippines when the public interest so requires, and shall not be interpreted as an exclusive grant of privileges herein provided.
Ano yan? No?
That is the law, Mr. Chair. And of course, there's also jurisprudence about that, Mr. Chair.
What jurisprudence na naman yung sinasabi mo?
GR number 1961999.
Kasi tinanggap itong frankisa na to that we have the right to repeal, amend. Ano yung telling us? Kapag wala kaming karapatan.
We
Ay,
all-
tinanggap yung frankisa nyo. Now we want it to amend, to repeal, or to revoke. And we have that authority based on your franchise as a law.
With all due respect, Mr. Chair, although I respect the congressman from Iloilo, Mr. Chair, it says, from Negros, Mr. Chair, it says here, Mr. Chair,
from Italy.
when public interest so requires. So who determines when the public interest so requires? So the jurisprudence, Mr. Chair.
Of course, Congress, because we are given the authority. And we only need to give you due process. And what we're doing now is the due process. To amend, to repeal, or to revoke the franchise.
I respect the opinion of the good congressman, Mr. Chair, but still, the power of the Congress is subject to judicial review, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So thank you very much, Attorney Mark Tolentino.
Mr. Chair.
Hindi po tayo matapos yan.
Mr. Chair.
Dahil, kasi kung si Attorney Suplico, dito na ko po, portahin ka niya.
Mr. Chair, yun nga gusto ko sabihin eh.
Attorney
Baka
Dina.
po pwedeng pagsalitain si dating congressman, Suplico. Nagtatas lang kami, bakit hindi pagsalitain, Mr. Chair?
I just wanted to add something to what Congressman Gato said. That I remember a case in political law 1 that's taken up during the first year of law proper. My professor was Justice Mendoza. He said that there was a case in the US, dirty finger, when held in relation to the Vietnam War is protecting speech. That guy, that members of the Makati class trying to act from talking came from the ranks. He has a mission over there. That's what he said. So there's a political reason for that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Anyway, the Honorable perhaps you've stated your point. There's also another speaker, there's another interpreter.
About lang doon, Mr. Chair, sa question daw na sinasabi. Mr. Chair, if kaya pong mai-flash po ulit yung ni-refer po kanina. Kasi Mr. Chair, pangalawang beses na rin pong narinig natin na yung mga sinasabi ng SMNI na hindi tama ay dapat lang daw palampasin kasi question. Mr. Chair, I did not imagine na dito sa Kongreso kailangan pa natin mag-lecture or pagpataas ng reading comprehension skills ng ating mga resource person, Mr. Chair. Para patunay nga talaga na may education crisis sa bansa, Mr. Chair. Kasi, ilan ba naman natin, Mr. Chair, ang subject ko ng tanong na yan, ang involvement ng Pangulo. Pero Mr. Chair, yung pangre-red tag sa speaker, hindi po siya nakapraise na tanong, Mr. Chair. Kaya malinaw talaga na Sir Chair, tingnan ba naman natin yung salita, di ba? Na ang speaker daw ay kasabwat ng triumvirate na yan. So Mr. Chair, hindi po pwede na yung fake news o yung red tagging ay kinukulong natin siya as commentary or as question. Kaya Mr. Chair, ang mga media na hindi kaya mag-distinguish what is fact and what is opinion, ano yung commentary at ano yung hindi. Actually, Mr. Chair, delikado sa lipunan natin. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Mandel. The Honorable for the last interpreter, the Honorable Gutierrez.
Thank you very much.
Proponent of the House Bill 9710.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before beginning my interpellation, I simply want to express my appreciation for the means by which the Honorable DASA has approached this hearing today. And I think this is the approach that every one member here should take, that they consider all angles of this far-reaching bill that I propose. But unlike the other members in this committee here today, I have already made my assessment of the situation. That's why I filed this bill. Mr. Chair, I came to this committee hearing today on the basis I filed this bill on the basis of our previous deliberations. We've already seen, in my opinion, clear facts that they have violated what I categorize as two kinds of violations. On Section 4 and 7 of their franchise regarding fake news and such, red tagging. On the corporate transgressions for their failure to report sale transfer of controlling interest under Section 10, failure to abide by the dispersal requirement at the section level, both of which, by the way, have ipso facto revocation provisions. And of course, Section 12, for their failure to follow reportorial requirements. I came here today with this committee, with this bill, expecting a tackling mostly on the legal portion. But I'm surprised to see now, Mr. Chair, based on the interpellation of Congresswoman Castro, Congressman Manuel, Congresswoman Rosas, that still they continue to violate Section 4 and 7. Still, nakikita po natin, tuloy pa rin po yung kanilang mga ganitong programa online, despite numerous attempts to fix that in the deliberations. And I am similarly irked by the statements made today by research persons. Before I go into the meat of the bill that I have proposed, to really flesh out and hopefully persuade my fellow members here to vote yes on this bill, I would like to give the opportunity to our research persons. I guess I will go backwards now, so that it's still fresh in our memory. Maybe ask Mr. Chair, Attorney Tolentino, while I think we have agreed that Congress has the power, I am very curious as to the jurisprudence citing here today. Mr. Chair, may we ask the good attorney, what particular, not the year number, what is the case title?
Please, Attorney Tolentino, case title po.
The case title, Mr. Chair, is Manila International Port Terminal versus Philippine Port Authority GR number 196199, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, regarding that, which is the law regarding franchises that they are challenging? What is the action for?
Again, Mr. Chair.
The facts of the case, the antecedents. What happened in this case? What are they arguing against? Anong franchise po ang binigay sa Port Authority?
That is with respect to the... It's about the Port Authority, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Chair, anong nangyari po?
But this jurisprudence talks about franchising generally.
Mr. Chair, may I just clarify? I want to know the antecedents of the case. The antecedent facts. Ano po yung violation ng Port Authority, ng Manila International, yung complainant? Manila Port.
It's about Manila Port Authority, Mr. Chair. I can explain in details. I will give the complete copy of the decision, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, this is my problem. My problem with the legal counsel that SMNI has selected is that they tend to nitpick and choose portions which they would not claim. It goes the same with SMNI News. They will choose portions to cite as truth that matters. But when you go into the whole picture, you can't even tell us the facts of the case. Mr. Chair, because I'm confident the Supreme Court will never say that Congress cannot repeal franchises. Alam ko yan. Alam ko yan sa law school. To now cite a case which I'm pretty sure Philippine Port Authority, this is an executive agency exercising regulatory powers over that industry. It cannot be compared to a legislative franchise granted by Congress under the Constitution. Mr. Chair, I take exception to all of these manners of fake news, fake sources. Mr. Chair, I am honestly fed up. I wish to cite this as an example. He is citing jurisprudence which he has not understood fully. Mr. Chair, very simple. What are the facts of the case? What is the transgression of Manila ports? What is the action of the Philippine Ports Authority? How is that related to legislative franchises? I'm pretty sure, Mr. Chair, the Supreme Court here cited legislative franchises only to say that an executive agency cannot act on its own on transgressions such as that. But never does it say that the Congress cannot repeal franchises. Can you cite, Mr. Chair?
Okay, Mr. Chair.
What can Congress bring? Is there a particular provision in that jurisprudence that says Congress cannot repeal franchises?
Okay, it says here, Mr. Chair.
No, the question is yes or no.
Yes, Mr. Chair, yes.
Does it say there that Congress cannot?
The Congress can amend, but subject to the due process clause of the Philippine
Mr. Chair, may we hear the provision? Sige,
Yes,
Okay, can you now read?
We have also characterized the legislative power to grant and regulate franchise as being subject to due process. It says here, we acknowledge the power of Congress to impose restriction on franchise. We also noted that no enactment of Congress may contravene the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Congress may very well, in its wisdom, impose additional obligation on the various franchisees and accordingly delegate to the NTC the power to ensure that the broadcast station comply with their obligations under the law. Because broadcast media enjoys lesser degree of free expression protection.
Mr. Chair, this is in the Philippine Court.
You're talking of Philippine Port Authority in Manila. Paano ka nagpunta dyan sa...
It cites here also, Mr. Chair, because the Supreme Court decision is focusing on the power of the Congress with respect to the franchise, Mr. Chair.
Yes, but
And the Supreme Court also explained what is a
Yung pinapasa
franchise.
nyo ba bahagi ba yan o interpretasyon nyo na yan?
Can I
No. You have to answer the question.
Yes, Chair.
You know, kasi babalik ka
It
na
is part,
naman
Mr.
sa...
Chair.
That is part of that particular
Yes.
GR that you mentioned.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Can we take a look at your...
Can I email
No, can we take a look now?
Mr. Chair?
Can I ask the COMSEC?
Most respectfully, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
May we just ask them how to explain how that is related to the
Correct,
Philippine Court?
because you're talking of broadcast.
I assume
You're
our
talking
company
about...
read the case.
Ano naman ang connection ng broadcast sa Philippine Ports Authority?
No, Mr. Chair, the Supreme Court explained the nature of a franchise.
Yes, so why did they particular mention about broadcast?
I was not able to read the complete details, Mr. Chair, because it's too long, Mr. Chair. But I can explain, Mr. Chair, that the constitutional nature of the franchise.
We have to validate the basa ko niyo. Pasensya lang po, Attorney Mark. Yung man po tayo ng gano'n, pero medyo kahilis ko kasi yung nabasa niyo. Okay, that is, we cannot see how they can include that in a decision that has nothing to do with broadcast or anything else. So maybe I would like to.
Can you email it, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
yes, I would suggest, can you just send us a copy? And we're checking the records now. I ask, Congressman Raj, can we please proceed, because we will not, I cannot accept his, that explanation.
Mr. Chair,
Because I think it's not, I think it's reading from something else.
Mr.
So
Chair.
can you now proceed?
Yes, thank you. I will proceed. On the last point lang, no, it's very possible that our good Panyero is reading an obiter. Or perhaps he's reading the background to support a, you know, in our Supreme Court cases, sometimes there's third, second, third sources already. So I think for him to, regardless if that is the case, without a sufficient explanation of how that ruling would apply here, kasi sa case pa lang, Philippine courts, tapos bigla ng NTC, without satisfactory explaining to us, I don't think it would persuade anyone here in this.
Yes, and I don't think the Supreme Court rules on obiter. Is that the right term?
Yes,
They
obiter.
do not rule on that.
Mr. Chair, and more specifically, even if we were to take, Mr. Chair, if we were to take that quote on its face value, it's talking about due process. But never does it say anything about Congress not having the capacity under the Constitution to revoke franchise. And this is what we are doing here, my dear colleague members, is due process. Ito po yung ginagawa natin. This is due process we are doing under legislative process. Now, with that, Mr. Chair, I don't think we'll get anywhere with the Supreme Court. But there's one more thing I want to take up. Mr. Chair,
Okay.
there was some mention. Mr. Chair, there was a mention earlier, one of the first interpellators, and it was explained by the Council of Smni, that they followed all of the procedural requirements of the NTC. Mr. Chair, may we ask the NTC to verify that, in fact, they have followed the deadlines by date regarding their orders?
Please proceed.
Mr. Chair, insofar as the finding of the answers, SMNI find the answers, but insofar as the reports that we received
Mr. Chair, no, sorry, just the filing of the answers and the proceedings of the administrative case, were they timely filed? Because I understand there was an initial 30-day suspension, and there was an iteration from the NTC to file their answer. May we know if, at the very least, in the due process provision, was it timely followed?
Mr. Chair, in reply, insofar as the answer to our issuances, there was supposed to be a deadline of January 15 on the filing of the answer. They explained that they have another 5 days from the denial of the motion of the bill in particulars. So, and that's part of the review and evaluation that the NTC is reviewing right now. But they submitted it on the 19th.
So as far as we're concerned, on the original deadline, di po nasunod. But they arrogate upon themselves the new rule. Mr. Chair, under the rules of the NTC, do we have bill motion for bill of particulars?
It would depend on the assessment of the NTC.
So we're not ready to answer this yet.
Is necessary.
Okay. No, but I mean, Mr. Chair, do we have that provision under your rules? Pwede po ba mag-file ng bill of particulars?
There is no specific, in the guidelines of the NTC, there's no specific guideline on that, Mr. Chair, but the rules of court apply supplementary to the processes of the commission.
So they filed the motion for bill of particulars, which now extended yung kanilang motion, the time for which they could answer. And is it correct, Mr. Chair, that this is the subject of a case before the Court of Appeals? It was made the subject of the case, Court of Appeals.
Mr. Chair, that's a different one.
Mr. Chair, among the research persons, who could properly elucidate on the effect, the case that the SMNA filed with the Court of Appeals?
I can explain that.
Perhaps the council. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, we filed when the NTC issued a 30-day suspension against SMNI, preventive suspension, the first 30 days. We filed a petition for certiorari, prohibition mandamus, and prayer for TRO with the Court of Appeals. But the Court of Appeals denied it on the ground that we failed to file a motion for reconsideration. So it was denied not based on merits. So again, the NTC suspended again for give us indefinite suspension. There's no date how many days. So this time we filed a motion for reconsideration and now pending with the NTC. So that is the status with respect to the NTC. But I'd like to put on record that we filed before this development, Mr. Chair, we filed a motion for bill of particulars because the order of NTC is not clarified what are our violations, but it was also denied. We also filed a motion for inhibition because they are also the complainant, so we can expect them to.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just doon lang po, like po.
Thank you very much, Attorney Dutino.
So, Mr. Chair,
Let's be very clear.
okay, so the Court of Appeals was indeed regarding that proceeding. There was already a file for the CA and it was denied for failure to file the MR. Mr. Chair, the good attorney mentioned earlier that there was an MR file.
We also filed a motion for reconsideration.
After the fact.
No, to the order, giving the order issued by the NTC giving indefinite suspension for the operation of SMNA.
But there was no MR during the initial 30-day suspension.
No MR. We go
No
directly
MR.
to the Court of Appeals.
Okay, so yun yung issue po natin. Due process was afforded, but they skipped it. In fact, I believe the wording of the CA was that the SMNI cannot arrogate upon itself the decision of whether or not an MR is required. Is that correct, Mr. Chair? That was part of the 5-page resolution.
Mr. Chair, we did not file an MR because we believe that the case of SMNI is part of the exception because time is of the essence because as an NTC immediately suspended us without giving us an opportunity to explain.
Mr. Chair, and the CA disagreed and denied.
And the CA said that no, you need to file an MR first.
So, yun nga po, na-deny po ng CA.
But
Yun lang.
not
So,
based
I
on,
think
but
this
not
is
based on merit, Mr. Chair.
not based on merit. Then, exactly, Mr. Chair, I think that is vital because SMNI is now harping on due process. But it seems that they are not following the procedures that are being offered, whether it's under this Congress, whether it's by the NTC. That word really stuck me from the CA. They are arrogating talaga upon themselves, their own interpretation of all of these rules and whatnot. So, Mr. Chair, with that, I want to go now to, kasi like I mentioned earlier, this bill was supposed to be on the legality. But I am surprised to see that nangyayari pa rin yung mga issues natin in Section 47.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, may we ask now, how does SMNI treat production of their shows? I know we touched on this very briefly. Is there a separate corporation that deals with production? Perhaps we can ask yung sa operations ko nila.
Operations.
Mr. Chair, there's none. All production is done by
Ano po?
Lahat po ng productions ng programa ay produce po ng SMNI.
Mr. Chair, so all production is done by SMNI.
Correct. It's
So,
not a co-pro. It is studio produced or.
so all provisions of their franchise would necessarily apply to what they do as a production company. Is that correct, Mr. Chair? So, Mr. Chair, how now do we differentiate between the two? Because I believe a while ago, their consultant was saying that whatever it is that we're commenting here would not apply to productions they've made because it's in YouTube. Tama ba, Mr. Chair? May we ask the consultant, Mr. Sonsa?
Jason, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chair. What's the question?
Yes, Mr. Chair, you mentioned earlier, upon prodding by one of our colleagues here, regarding the production of Mr. Celis, the video that was posted in that issue. And the defense that you posited was that you have no hand on that because it is not free TV. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
My statement, if I may recall correctly, Mr. Chair, is insofar as violation of the franchise with respect to free TV, whether it's radio or television, we have not violated any transmission procedure.
Mr. Chair, so you're mentioning the transmission procedure to highlight the fact that you have not violated the suspension order, correct?
Yes.
That is the
Suspension and the CDO.
The suspension and the CDO, you're talking about, you are relying on YouTube to go around the issue of the suspension order. But the question, Mr. Chair, is that when it comes to production, is it not a shared responsibility? Not even shared. It is the responsibility of SMNI under their franchise. Because as you mentioned, there is no separate corporation for production.
Yes.
So whether or not it is aired, I understand, Mr. Chair, honestly, that tama po yung sinasabi niya. Because it is through YouTube, there is no transgression of the cease and desist order. But regarding the sections 4 and 7 on the substance of the production, it is something that has been skirted all day long, Mr. Chair. Kasi kung tinatanong po natin dito, as succinctly pointed out by the Honorable Daza, if that wasn't free to air, where would they draw the line? Because apparently, if you take it out, if the FTC suspends it, wala na po dun, they feel that, and they are still producing po, no? They're not airing it, but they're producing the content, that there's no need to draw any line. Because after all, do a crime, they'll just file a case after. I think, Mr. Chair, that's our problem here, the way by which Suara Soup goes about their business. It really shows impunity, perhaps? It's a culture of impunity, a culture of walang pakialam, anything goes. So that's why, Mr. Chair, I think, and I hope this persuades my fellow members here, that this is an obligation that we have as members of Congress. Ito na po yung public interest, common good, general welfare portion that is being referred to by the Constitution. That, again, I will cite it again, neither any franchise or right be granted except under the condition that it shall be subject to amendment, alteration, or repeal by Congress when the common good so requires. They are skirting provisions on the NTC. They are focusing only on, they have no more obligations kasi hindi na to on air. They are focusing on YouTube. But yet they still go about doing the same things. Mr. Chair, can we maybe ask the Chief of Operations again? They are aware that since Suara Soup is not a separate corporation, they are bound by sections 4 and 7 of the franchise.
Yes, sure.
Yes, Mr. Chair. And they also understand that under sections 4 and 7, they have the duty, self-regulated duty actually, to provide balanced programming.
Yes, po.
So how do we now reconcile that responsibility to the public of giving balanced programming, avoiding fake news, avoiding red tagging, with what is being done now? Mr. Chair, may I ask, okay, one more. We mentioned during the last hearing, they mentioned that there is now an ethics committee, or what do you call that? What is your grievance committee po? The question is directed to the Chief of Operations.
Yes, po, yes.
Ano po yun? Or what is the committee that you have
Ethics
formed?
and Grievance Committee.
Ethics and Grievance Committee. So when it is not on free-to-air TV, does it not apply to the produce? Because I remember the other board member mentioned, member of the board mentioned that whether this is on air or on YouTube, lahat ng ginagawa nila sa programa would be at the end of the day subject to a report, of which supposedly this Ethics and Grievance Committee would deliberate. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
Yes, po.
And this, despite being on YouTube, should have gone through the Ethics and Grievance Committee. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
It would definitely go through that after this hearing.
No, after this hearing. Mr. Chair, may I ask my good colleague, the Honorable Manuel, ano po yung date nung video that they...
January 9, 2024 na
January
post.
9. It is now February 7. Bakit ngayon lang po? Isn't it supposed to be the whole purpose of a production report is that the moment that was produced, it will be reviewed by your committee, subject to action. Bakit ngayon pa lang po? Just because ngayon lang nakita?
Mr. Chairman, we haven't received complaints with regards to front.
Mr. Chair, I think the whole point of the committee is to avoid complaints po, no? That's why you have your production team report on it right after production. Before anyone has seen it, before anyone has been offended, before any crime is committed. Mr. Chair, ang problema po natin ito, dito, most honestly, yung grievance committee seems to be a reactionary one. You might as well call it the Congressional Inquiry Response Committee. Kasi, yun ang nangyayari po, no? They only constituted the committee last hearing after the fact already of that issue on the budget of Congress. And then now, they are going to tell us that the grievance committee will act on it only after it was brought up by Representative Manuel, after the fact of the offense. So, Mr. Chair, this goes back to my point, no? Na yung, the way by which they handle their business, it's very, hands-off. And I think this really goes into the provision on the common good that we should respond to. The other matters, Mr. Chair, I just want to reiterate na po, no? Because this was already mentioned time and time again. Section 10, 11, and 12. I'd like to ask the SEC, because perhaps it does not give a full picture. Earlier, the Honorable Dasa asked you about the offenses of the Suarez Media Corporation, and it seemed to give off the idea that it is only late filing. But is it not? During the last deliberation, we found that they filed with the SEC. What they filed there was different from what they filed with the committee. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So I would say that this is not only a late filing issue.
Yes, Mr. Chair, what I shared earlier to the commission was based on the records, but I confirm that during the previous deliberation, we made a manifestation that there was a discrepancy in the filing that were made to the SEC as well as to the Honorable Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, we're not pinpointing that answer. No, we understand your answer because on the part of the SEC, what you only see was a late filing. But taken together with what was filed with the committee, nakita ko natin there is discrepancy, which goes into the substance of those reports. I will not belabor the point, no, but we've already, as shown before by PowerPoint, the issues of the controlling interest. This was something that was verified by the SEC. They transferred interest without asking permission of Congress, again verified with the SEC. Even the change of the executive pastor of Kingdom of Jesus Christ from non-stop to Corporation Sole was very, maybe ask again, just for everyone here, SEC maybe ask, the point made out by the Congresswoman Nograles regarding the change from the executive pastor to Corporation Sole regarding the requirement of the two-thirds vote there. There was an issue there, was there not, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that those were information that we shared that reflects the records of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to comment on that point, just because for those who might be hearing about it for the first time, they might think that the transgressions were merely late submissions, but it really goes into the substance of the report, and it goes into what I'm saying, the culture of which SMNI operates. It's really haphazard. So I think to protect for the interest of the common good, I really seek the urgent approval of my bill. So I think there might be others who would like to ask, so I would like to relinquish the floor to that. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much to the proponent, the Honorable Ramon Rodriguez Gutierrez of One
Mr.
Rider.
Chair, Mr. Chair, with your indulgence and the indulgence of the gentleman for One Rider, can we ask the SEC, because it was just highlighted that there were discrepancies in records. Is that within their authority to investigate if there were any sort of misrepresentation or fraud? Because it was just highlighted just now, and no less than the Honorable Kim was sitting next to me, and I remember she was one of the members who pointed that out, I think, in the last hearing. Could we ask the SEC?
Yes, Mr. Chair, can I provide a context on what happened in this particular matter? So what happened in this matter is that when we were asked when we were asked to verify a particular submission, we presented to the Honorable Committee the records that were with the SEC. unfortunately, it was also discovered that the same document that was filed with the Honorable Committee was not the same document that was filed with the SEC. So that was the discrepancy. And the reason for that is under the legislative franchise of the subject committee, they are required to file reportorial requirements with the Honorable Congress. So that was the context why why the Honorable Committee discovered that there was different documents, same documents, different files.
Okay, well, thank you for that background, Mr. Chair. So my question is, because the commission, you're a quasi judicial type of body, the SEC. You have regulatory and investigative powers. Now that you've been put on notice of these discrepancies, aren't you duty bound to do some sort of an investigation and report at least to yourselves and then share it with the committee?
Mr. Chair, there's actually a new provision in the revised corporation code, which provides that any person who certifies in a document required to be filed with the commission to a false or misstatement or a erroneous data can be held criminally liable. So that's one of the things that the SEC has the power to look into. But since this is a criminal case, what the procedure is the SEC will need to file a proper or file a proper endorsement before the Department of Justice.
And have you started the process, or do you see a need to start the process?
Sir, personally, Mr. Chair, certainly there's a need, and this is a matter that is within the jurisdiction of our Enforcement and Investor Protection Department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Asa, the chair recognizes the harder working team from the second district of Marikina, the Honorable Stella Luz Kimbo. Welcome back to the hearing of the Franchise Commission. So, are you done, Honorable Gaza? Any other question by any other member? The Honorable Kimbo, of course, is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, kung natatandaan po natin, medyo matagal na nung huli nating hearing, ang naging issue po natin kay Casa Elisa ay ang kanyang refusal to reveal to us yung kanyang source of information. Dahil nga doon, nagkaroon tayo ng napakaraming problema, no? At dahil din doon, ang isa sa mga nakuha po natin na documents ay yung kanilang manual. At in fairness naman, nakapag-produce naman sila ng manual. At nakita po natin doon na merong very specific guidelines kapag merong source na revealing the source may threaten or cause harm to the source. At kung pwede ko pong i-share sa inyo, ganito po ang naka-indicate sa manual. Correspondents and reporters should not hide their source of a news story unless revealing it may threaten or cause harm to the source or lead to a halt in the flow of information to the correspondent. In such cases, the source should be revealed to the highest editorial authority, who should decide whether or not to broadcast the story and take responsibility for airing it. When airing it, it is sufficient to say SSMC, SMNI was informed that, etc., etc. So, ang tanong po natin is, ginawa po ba ito ni Caceres? So, ang unang tanong, at that point in time, sino po yung highest editorial authority? Anong petsa po? Kailan po niya sinabihan itong highest editorial authority Ano po ang ginawa ni highest editorial authority doon sa information na yan? Ano po ang naging advice ni highest editorial authority kay Cáceres?
Yes, Mr. Chair, yung binasa po ni Congresswoman is for correspondents and reporters. Please take note po na si Ka Eric is not a correspondent nor a reporter, he's a commentator of program po. So yung po kanyang ginawa sa live broadcast, nevertheless, ay dumaan po siya ng investigation and like we said earlier, nagkaroon po siya ng 10-day suspension from
So,
broadcast.
may bahan ng correspondence and a commentator.
At Mr. Chair, ibig sabihin po nun, just because iba ang tawag sa akin, hindi ako correspondent, hindi ako news anchor, ibig sabihin nun, mas mababa ang standards na ma-apply sa akin. Yun bang ibig sabihin nun? Diba? So paki-explain po, una, ano po pagkakaiba? Anong tawag sa kanya ulit?
Commentators po
Commentator.
sila.
Anong pagkakaiba ng commentator sa correspondent or news anchor? That's the first question. Pangalawa, ano ngayon ang standards applicable to a commentator? Wala po akong nakitang separate standards para sa commentator. In a situation katulad nito, at the fact na naisulat dito ang gagawin kapag may ganitong sitwasyon, ibig sabihin nun, anticipated ninyo na nangyayari ito all the time. Kaya nga maganda, di ba Mr. Chair, na nakalinaw anong gagawin kasi anticipated. Ibig sabihin nun, anticipated din na mangyayari ito sa mga commentator. So sa unang tanong po, pagkakaiba ng commentator sa correspondent?
Mr. Chair, ang unang tanong po, ang mga commentators po, ang mga news correspondents at mga news writers, sila po ay news writers o news reporters po ang nakasulat, ay nagre-report, dumadaan po sa mga editors, lahat ng kanilang isinusulat bago po ito lumabas sa TV, whereas ang mga commentators po, ang kanilang mga topics ang aming nakikita, kung ano ang kanilang pag-uusapan, ngunit ang nangyayari po ng kanilang sinasabi sa live broadcast ay hindi po namin lahat masasala. At kaya po nangyari na after po ng live, ay dumaan po ng proseso ng investigasyon si Ka Eric, subalit ito po ay na preempt na rin po ng investigation dito sa Kongreso, but nevertheless, ito po ay nagpatuloy at siya po ay dumaan sa 10-day suspension. Hindi po ibig sabihin na hindi po siya dumaan sa proseso ng pagdidisiplina.
Sa makatuwid, kung ikaw ay commentator, hindi ka napapaloob sa kahit na anong authority. Kahit na ano, pwede mong sabihin, Mr. Chair. Ganun ang intindi ko po sa sinasabi ninyo. Kasi kapag correspondent ka or news anchor, ikaw ay mayroong nire-reportan na editorial authority at mayroong rules. Kapag commentator ka, there's no such thing. So ang ibig sabihin nun, pag malasin ka at nag-intervene ang Kongreso, saka ka lang paparusahan. So, can you imagine, Mr. Chair? Ang hirap naman, di ba, napupunta sa atin ang burden ng ganitong sitwasyon, di ba, na hindi naman yata pwede yan, di ba? So, tama ba na walang standards para sa commentator?
Mr. Chair, can I answer the Honorable Member?
Mr. Sonsa,
Yes. Mr. Chairman, ang nire-refer po kasi doon sa binasa nyo kanina, doon po sa staff ng News and Public Affairs Department, reporters, correspondent. With respect to anchors or talents, sila po ay subject pa rin sa provisions which are provided in their separate contracts. Yung pagdisiplina, halimbawa may violation sila sa franchise. Aba, siyempre, kinakailangan dumaan sila sa pagdisiplina. Kaya nga nagkaroon ng investigasyon. Hindi nangangahulugan na hindi po sila subject to disciplinary action, Mr. Chair.
well, I think, Mr. Sonsa, With pagay ko, hindi mo naman natin pwedeng hingin lahat ng mga kontrata ng lahat ng mga talents ninyo. Pero pagay ko, I think they're all airing under one program, under one network. So I'm pretty sure that everybody toes the line with one set of rules. Na yun yung hindi ko maintindihan by all of a sudden. Pag ganun pala, pag meron kang titirahin, tawagin mo lang commentator para iwas puso nila ang Smni o any network for that nature. Hindi ho pwede. You know, you cannot hide under that like yung mga disclaimer. Parang sabi na pag ang isang network, kunyari, Channel 7, may disclaimer kami dyan kaya hindi pwede habulin ng MTRCB ang sasabihin ito. Hindi mo pwede. Diba? I mean, you know, you cannot hide under this. And somehow, we cannot also, it's hard to comprehend. Isa sabi ni Congresswoman Kimbo na how can you have a different set of rules sa commentator at sa news reporters? Parang baba naman ang tingin natin sa mga commentator. Pag ganyan mo ang gawin mo niya. Kasi ang gagawin nyo, libre zone ang gagawin nila. Kaya gawin nyo na kung anong gusto nyo gawin dahil hindi naman kayo covered ng manual. Ba't pa kayo nagpakita ng manual? Ang pinag-usapan si Ka Eric. Tapos nagbigay kayo ng manual dahil ito yung proseso namin. Tapos now you tell us, it does not refer to Ka Eric. Pwede ba yun? Di ba, yun yung basihan ng usapan, yung kaya nga humingi ng manual. Mabuti ho, maging klaro naman po tayo.
Opo, klaro naman po.
Opo.
Hindi po sanay
na-
kayo sa kalakaran sa industriya. Mas mabigat po ang pagdisiplina sa talent and anchor kaysa dun sa mga regular correspondent, reporters, writers. Doon sa mga nagtrabaho sa industriya, naintindihan po nila yun. Kasi ang talent at immediately pwedeng iabukan pwedeng tanggalin nyo sila sa trabaho, sa kontrata nila Hindi katulad sa dadaan talaga sa proseso kasi...
Pero the way it's explained to us, parang baliktad.
Hindi. Kaya po tinutuloy.
Meron po kayong rules pagdating po sa reporter, pero pag correspondence, pero pagdating sa commentators, wala. Kasi kakasabi lang po kanina ng operations, which, tapos binigyan nyo ng 10-day suspension. Ba't yung binigyan 10-day suspension? Wala naman pala siyang hindi pala siya covered doon sa manual niya. I mean, it does not make sense. And that's what Congressman Daso was saying earlier. Na, the more you have to be very careful kasi you're now kind of contradicting each other. So, mag-ingat na po tayo doon sa mga, kasi syempre, we would like to discuss this fairly and we're trying to understand how you operate. And the Honorable Kimbo, who has attended all the hearings of this committee, has always been fair in her assessment and has always been objective in her questions. So the Honorable Kimbo, you still have the floor. You still have any.
Well, actually, Mr. Chair, gusto ko pa sana magtanong dito tungkol sa kanilang code of ethics. Pero sa totoo lang po, walang gana na po, di ba? Kasi, magpapalusot lang naman po, di ba? Kung ganito yung rule, ang sasabihin lang naman, papalitan lang naman ng tawag dun sa, imbis na commentator, imbis na reporter or news anchor na tawaging commentator, hindi naman pala code of ethics ito, kung hindi cheat code. Huwag na lang po. Thank you na lang po. I will just yield to the next. Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Salamat.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stella Kimbo. The Honorable Ina Panchos, recognized from Bulacan.
Mr. Chair, makikita po natin na in any company, there's always a chain of command. So pag nag-utos ka, dire-diretso yun, responsible ka to whatever action ng tao mo. Pero nakikita po natin dito na parang hindi po nasusunod yung chain of command natin So siguro po one of the suggestions lang po natin na siguro next time when we grant o give franchise to any company, siguro yung disclaimer tanggalin na po natin. Kasi pagdating po sa pagpapalabas, pag pumapasok ka advertisement, kumikita, everybody's happy. Pero pag nakasira ka na ng image ng tao, para bang, oops, teka, kayo lang yan. May disclaimer kami. So siguro next time, Mr. Chair, review natin na tanggalin na po yun.
Opo.
Thank you po, Mr.
But
Chair.
I know sa mga major networks, so hindi ko talaga mapayagin yung ganun tawag sa'yo. Whether reporter ka, yung reporter, news anchor, correspondent, hindi ko ba pwede lahat yan. Yung they follow one rule and the rule of truth. So, I thank you very much, Honorable Tina Pancho. There's no other member that would like to speak. Okay. Anyway, your attendance is already the floor.
Yes, thank
Yes,
you.
the Honorable Franz Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, sinasabi kanina, no, yung nasuspend lang ay yung free air. Pero the same content pa rin, yung ini-air nila, sabi at follow lang no, yung ating kasama sa Gutierrez. The same content, walang pagbabago. Yung ginagawa noong sa free air na ginagawa noong Celis at saka ng Badoy, at saka sa online, at saka doon sa free air, Mr. Chair. Kaya parang misrepresent nila, no? Yung by continuing these programs through SOCMED, okay lang, parang sinabi ng mga Snake Pacho, basta kumikita, okay lang, sige lang. Tuloy-tuloy lang kayo kung ano yung sinasabi. Basta tanggap yan ng mga trolls, tanggap yan ng mga nagbabayad sa atin. So parang ganun eh. Wala pa talaga, Mr. Chair, na parang control tayo. Halimbawa, meron ba tayong magagawa halimbawa sa NTC? Kasi ang NTC po, Mr. Chair, alam ko nag-cancel po kayo or na-suspend po kayo ng website. Tama? Na mga alternative media. Alam ko may ganun po kayong ganun po kayong ginawa. So, halimbawa sa ganito po, wala po ba kayong control sa website? Halimbawa, SMNI na same pa rin naman po yung content na katulad ng nireklamo natin, red tagging, disinformation, maligning, the reputation ng mga individual. So ano po ba yung magagawa doon ng NBC, Mr. Chair? Kahit na suspended na yung free airs, kahit na suspended na parang wala silang pakialam. Kahit na suspended kami anyway, andyan na social media. Lahat ng mga platform na pwede namin pagpuntahan para magsalita. Na sila dapat ay may control doon sa kanilang no? Sinasabi nila yung mga talents nila na binabayaran nila. So, ngayon sa Pilipinas wala silang So, meron po ba, Sir Chair?
Meron po tayong
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Insofar as that yung concern po na yun, we had a preliminary discussion with the MTRCP and we would advise that yung suspension order po nila includes not only the free-to-air but on other platforms. So if that is the case, Your Honor, should the MTRCP decide to endorse that suspension order to the FTC for suspension on other platforms, perhaps we can consider, the FTC can consider that, Mr. Chair.
So, ano po sagot doon ng NTC? Kasi parang MTRCP, kasi parang pinapasa ng
MTRCP.
NTC yung MTRCP. By the way, ito po bang BCAR 1026, saka ito yung radio nila. Suspended din po ba yun, NTC?
Yes, Your Honor. Kasama po.
Okay. So, MTRCP na lang.
Yan po.
If the MCRTV decided to suspend or cancel a program in all kinds of media platforms, then said decision is final and executory, we can endorse it to the NTC in order for them to assist us in implementation of the decision.
So, monitor niyo po ba yung iba pang mga platforms? Halimbawa. Kasi ito, meron lang nga po siyang suspension. Dahil nga sa mga disinformation, red tagging, at saka yung topic natin ngayon, doon sa bakit kailangan ba or hindi, i-revoke yung kanilang franchise. Pero ano po yung ginagawa? Do we need to have yung complaint pa? Or yung mandate ninyo ay continuing yung pag-monitor?
Upon implementation po, kapag may final and executive decision na po kami, our monitoring and inspection unit po, they make sure po, they monitor if nag-air pa din po yung movie or TV program na yan. But honestly po, currently we are amending our charter to include online, on-demand online applications as well as streaming applications po, social and other social media platforms to be under our jurisdiction.
So, sige, yun lang kasi sir, makakaasa tayo, no? Dahil sa monitoring ng other platform based doon sa amendment sa Mondays. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Tina Pancho, the Honorable, yes.
Mr. Chair, if you still remember Rendon Labrador, sa Facebook, marami siyang inawit kinagalit eh. Inalis po siya ng Facebook eh. Maybe we can ask Facebook or TikTok, any resource person from TikTok and Facebook, na ma-invite po natin na kung ano yung guidelines po
Okay.
nila.
Pag-usapan po natin
If you remember Rendon Labrador, inaway si Vice Ganda and other celebrities, kinat siya eh.
Okay.
May disciplinary action.
Sige, pag-usapan natin, maybe we can look at legislation for that. Yes, Honorable Kimbo.
Yes,
Again,
parable questions.
before I go to the last.
Yes, to the NTC. May we,
NTC.
yes, may we know how many orders you have issued so far to the SMNI with respect to this issue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your Honor, insofar as this issue is concerned, the FTC has issued 2 orders relative to this, and the others are resolutions of their motions. So, ito na po yung mga na-issue ng FTC relative to.
So how many issuances in total?
2 orders and 2 resolutions, so all in all 4.
And the resolutions are, can you tell us what the resolutions are about?
The resolution on the motion to inhibit, and also the resolution on the motion for the bill of particulars. Yun po.
And may we request copies of these orders, Mr. Chair?
Thank you very much, the Honorable
Thank you.
Kimbo. Just to inform you, early on, that was already in motion, that all documents be given and make sure that the Honorable Kimbo's office is furnished. All issuances, including the reply of SMNI. Thank you. So, if there are no other items, in the Honorable Pimentel, the Vice Chair would like to again manifest.
Mr. Chair, before we adjourn, I'd like to remind Attorney Tolentino to please advise your principal, Pastor Kibuloy, to attend the next hearing because this committee has already previously issued a subpoena. Failure on his part to appear during the next hearing, this committee might be constrained to issue a contempt order to him. So, pag-advise na lang po para hindi na tayo dumating doon. Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Duly seconded, the chair in objection. This committee hearing is hereby adjourned.
See you again mga kabayan. Ito intervene si Congrats. So, see you po. Maraming salamat, Rachel G. Ingat po, Sir Chief.